Welcome back to the Diver Guide channel, and today we're talking about reverse dive straight. And in this video, I'm going to show you what it looks like to go from beginner to expert. And this might not be a dive that you actually practice or compete too much because it is kind of more rare. But this dive is also important because it teaches you how to have better balance on your takeoff, and it helps with harder dives in the future. So even if you're not competing it, giving it a practice every once in a while just to really feel the takeoff is super important. I've really wanted to make more content for you guys and get all these videos out as fast as possible. And if you like what I have done so far and you want to support the channel more, you can check out the website that I made, but I'm not gonna shill this too much. Your views and your likes and subscribing is plenty enough for me. So with that said, let's just talk about the dive. I want to talk about what makes reverses move away safely from the board in the first place, because that becomes super important for this dive. It's well known that the board naturally pushes you away. I'm not going to go into detail there. Just for now, you can just know that that's the case. The board wants to push you away. And on top of that, there's some things that you can do as you leave the board that make you move out. A lot of people cut through their knees to move out, which is not 100% ideal, although you do have to do that for harder dives. The other big reason is their hips moving forward, which is really how you want to move away from the board. And then lastly, the momentum from your hurdle. So you're going to be walking down the board and trying to translate that forward momentum and velocity into upward trajectories. A lot of times people will not transfer that enough and they'll just kind of go too fast down the board, which makes them jump out further. And that's why this dive is a dive of patience and body awareness. So in the beginning, your understanding of the hurdle is not expert either. A lot of dives kind of progress with your ability to do the hurdle and use the board, and that comes with just repetitions. That's why you see beginners pushing their belly out or breaking at the knees on the takeoff, because their comfort level on the board is not the same as an expert who has thousands of repetitions. They want to try and get away from the board as much as possible, and that's okay. In the beginning stages, you might also be throwing your head back on the start because you're anxious to see the water. That's okay as well. And before we move on to like an intermediate level, let's take a look at this special case of falling forward on the takeoff. This happens a lot on reverses, and at some point you're just going to be falling forward too much to save the dive, which is what you see in this video. But if you do find yourself a little bit over the edge, here's what you need to do. I talk about it a little bit in my how to do a hurdle video, but what you want to do is sit back as much as possible. You want to push your hips back, so that way you can sit on the board before standing back up. Because if all of your momentum is going over your toes, then the only way to get back is by sitting immediately to try and recorrect it. What makes this so hard is that the board is also angling down, which makes it harder to even lean back. So this takes a lot of practice as well, but it's a really good skill to have if you find yourself a little bit over the edge of the board. So as you get better at this dive, you'll find that you aren't pushing yourself out as much, and maybe you have just a gentle knee break or just a little extra hip extension than what you really need, but you're still not using the board to its full power. At this point, you also might be putting your head in the correct position on the takeoff, which is really just looking forward out over the water, or maybe down slightly as you come off the board. But there's also cases of expert divers that are putting their head back on this dive. I don't really like that because it can lead to issues on your optionals, or if your balance is back on the end of the board, you could end up hitting the board a lot easier because the head is a lot of weight and it dictates a lot of your direction. If you throw your head back too early on the start and you're leaning back on the start too much, you're going to be going straight up and the board won't push you out quite enough. And that's where it becomes a little bit dangerous, like in this video. It looks really nice in the air and elegant, but in my opinion, she's a little bit too close. But eventually, you'll iron out a lot of this stuff, and this is what an expert reverse dive might look like. By this point, you're very comfortable on the board, and you'll know how to handle different situations like we talked about, being over or being back, being on the corner of the board. All of these things you'll be able to handle because you've been in that situation before and you've had practice there. The arm swing will be effortless. You'll be able to just bring them up to your ears because you know how to relax the shoulders on the arm swing, because in the beginning you're really trying to grit through it and just muscle your way through dives. But as you get better and better and more experienced, you'll be able to relax more, and you'll find that the relaxation actually speeds up the process. So it not only makes you look more elegant, but it literally makes it easier to do. And here's a little secret: you can actually just do that now. You can just make a decision to relax more on the board. It's a conscious thing. It doesn't have to take years. Another thing that an expert will have is that they're not really scared to ride the board and hold on to a tall position because they understand what balance they need to leave the board safely and move away at the right distance. That means that they lean back onto the board slightly as the board is dipping down. That way they can stay tall. And as they leave the board, they just use their hips to slightly push out and away to help them move safely. And on the takeoff, they have the right head position and they've found the right release point. They're not leaving the board too early, which would mean they're cutting through their knees. They're really being patient because, like I said in the beginning, is a dive of patience and board timing. So the more you just practice your board timing and hurdles, the better that this dive will get. If you want to know more about how to do back entries or reverse entries, check out my back entry video. It'll really talk about the right alignment for going in the water, and that'll help you on your reverse dive straight. But the big lesson here is about relaxation and patience. The less you try to muscle this dive, the easier it will become. If you want more information on how to do hurdles, you can check out that video. I'll link it in the description. And let me know how you like this style of video. I didn't go as detailed on each video, but I tried to encapsulate all of the main points that you might find on this dive. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.